None of that appears on the certification of live birth. And you still have people like Chris Matthews holding up a piece of paper and say, here's his birth certificate. Hey, Chris, no one's seen his birth certificate. Oh, you got it there? I've seen that one. I've actually seen the first copy of that. There's some doubts about that, okay? But it really, like I said, doesn't matter, because the significant part is Indonesia. He's adopted or acknowledged in Indonesia. His name is Barry Soturo. Now, yes, you can use an alias, but not for fraudulent purposes. And that's what Obama is doing. By using the name Barack Hussein Obama, that's fraud. When he signed to run in each of the 50 states and territories by the name of Barack Hussein Obama, that's fraud, because his name is Barry Soturo. Unless he has gone to court and legally changed his name, and we've seen no evidence of that. Like I say, you can use an alias, but not for fraudulent purposes, and that's what he's doing. We believe, after a couple years of investigation, that when his mother sent him back to live with her parents in when he was 10 years of age, that he went back on his Indonesia passport. And that's why at age 20, when he traveled to Pakistan, but before he went to Pakistan, he went to Indonesia, we think he went there to renew his passport. Before they sealed all the records, someone had sent in for Freedom of Information, and they sent me a copy, asking for a copy of his passport records on Obama. Excuse me, it came back that there was no record. I believe that he never had a U.S. passport until he became a U.S. senator, and therefore then he took a diplomatic passport as senator and as president. Or he has phonied up some other documents. Remember, he has sealed all of his documents. You don't seal documents unless you're hiding something. I think I was the first person to come out dealing with the subject of school records. I believe that he wouldn't allow his school records to be shown because I believe that they will show that he applied for and received foreign aid, either indicating from Kenya or from Indonesia. You know, why else? What are you hiding? What are you sealing? Columbia University, no one even remembers him being in any class. I mean, there's so much missing information. Now, we're all aware of who his associations have been with Reverend Wright and other people. Do you know that the people that Obama associated with, he could not get a job as a Chicago police officer, let alone an FBI agent or Secret Service agent, because of his prior associations? I mean, I don't know what the press thinks they're doing in this country, but they're hurting us. And I think what's happened is the press in this country is now controlled by 3 or 4 corporations. And the leaders of those, the money people behind them, George Soros and other people, Murdoch, I think the word is you can talk about anything, but don't talk about his birth certificate. And I think that's significant. Like Glenn Beck, I can't figure him out at all. 90% of Obama is wrong. Everything Obama does is wrong. And he spoke out here a month ago. But he won't touch the birth certificate. And I believe it's pressure from Murdoch going down. Talk about everything, but don't talk about the birth certificate. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. And Glenn Beck, he even honored me. I was on his blackboard for 3 days, you know, so I think I'm a troublemaker, he said, or something like that. But if I'm a troublemaker, we're a peaceful troublemaker because we're going to work together to unseat this person. We're in a constitutional crisis, okay? Now, who would become president? You know what? I don't even know. I mean, think about it. I think the swearing in was perhaps done wrong intentionally because I think the Chief Justice knows, and then the second swearing in, I think they did that without a Bible. So I think there's a lot of questions about the swearing in of Obama. But do we go back to January 8th, 2009, the joint session of Congress, when we remove Obama? Because Congress violated their duty and responsibility at that time. Their duty and responsibility, if one member of Congress, one member of the House, and one member of the Senate had written in to question electoral vote from any state, they would have had to divide, they would have had to go back to the separate chambers of the House and Senate and resolve the issue. And if they couldn't resolve the issue, under the Constitution, they have the right to nominate a president, nominate a vice president, the House and Senate different. They didn't do that. I believe Congress has all the members of Congress have either committed or about to commit or right on the edge of treason. because they are violating their duty and responsibility. When they're sworn into law, from the Chief Justice, all the judges, the members of the House, the members of the Senate, they swear to uphold the Constitution. Where are they? They're not doing it. It's an absolute disgrace. During his last 6 months in office, I laughed. George Bush questioned Putin with the free press in Russia. I question the free press in this country. I think it's a disgrace. If any media is there, I was interviewed about a year ago by the New York Times, and I mentioned that to him. I said, I wish I could sue the national media here, including the New York Times, for what they haven't done in this case. They even printed that. I give them credit for printing that, even including the New York Times. But they haven't done anything. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. If 2020 or Nightline or Dateline or the New York Times front page top fold, Washington Post, Chicago Tribune, Los Angeles papers, if any of those papers would cover the story, or if any of these TV shows would do it, Obama would be out of office in a week. But they're a disgrace. They're a disgrace. So what we have to do is we have to keep spreading our message across this great nation and perhaps have smaller rallies all around this country. We have to get the word about. I don't think enough people in this country know about this, because the document that he has put forth, the certification of live birth, do you know you cannot even register your child for Little League with that document, let alone get a U.S. passport? You must have a long-form birth certificate. I mean, just wake up. If the American public, it's a shame. If the public really knew that situation, I think they would demand, I think we could force him out of office. And I'm going to keep the fight going with all of you on that basis, because what is going on is outrageous. I think Michelle Obama, remember she took 40 of her closest friends to Spain, I think, for her daughter's birthday. I think she did that because I think she knows her time is short in the White House, and not for any bad reasons, other than the fact that the truth will come out. I don't want anything to happen to Obama, other than the truth be told, and him finally to wake up and acknowledge this country that he's a fraud. But I don't think he cares. He could care less. He's more interested in basketball and other things. A lot of people think he's lost it. I don't know if he ever had it. He's a great speaker, not like this. He's a great speaker with the teleprompters. With no teleprompter, he's a different person. I left my notes home. This is all coming from my head. But we have a real problem in this country, and we have to deal with it now. Now, I mentioned the joint session of Congress, so I don't think Congress would have any input on this. Then, do we go back to December 15th, 2008, when in each of the state capitals electors met? Because they had a responsibility. And what was their responsibility? Their responsibility was to vote for a constitutional eligible person who had the most votes in their state. They violated that duty because he's not constitutionally eligible, which comes to an interesting point. After the Democratic National Convention, Nancy Pelosi had to certify Obama to each of the 50 states and territories. She sent one certification to Hawaii saying he was constitutionally eligible, but she took those words out in all the other states. She knows what's going on, and I think therefore she's violated her duty. Perhaps we should have her tried and convicted too, because she's part of this scheme against us citizens. We just want the truth. We deserve the truth. So I don't know if the electors would do anything, so therefore I think we go back to November 8, 2008. And the voters at that time could only vote for someone who's constitutionally eligible. So do we go to McCain, or I think really it calls for a new election in this country as soon as possible, and someone as a holdover. People say, well, you know, if you get Obama removed from office, there's going to be riots in the streets, Berg, and you're going to be responsible. No, when we remove Obama from office, I will have a news conference with all the religious leaders in this country and the political leaders in this country and say, what are you doing, ladies and gentlemen? You're going to go riot in the streets and injure and kill people and destroy property for what? For what one person has done? One person. Obama knows he's, again, a fraud, a phony, an imposter. He knows it. So what are you going to do, riot in the streets? No, you take Obama, send him, try him, send him to jail, and even deport him. There shouldn't be riots in the streets, and we shouldn't fear that. We can't fear the truth. And a lot of people say, well, you know, this issue really doesn't bother me. It bothers you because one day it can affect you. If not today, maybe it affects you tomorrow. This Obamacare, what's happening now? People are realizing that their premiums aren't going down. Your premiums are going up. Your benefits are going down. The co-pays are going up on Obamacare. Think what they did. They took $500 billion, not million, $500 billion out of Medicare to fund this new health care bill. Well, if you took $500 billion from Medicare, what's going to happen to Medicare? The benefits have to go down, the premiums have to go up, the co-pays have to go up. I mean, we're talking, this is crazy. And what did Nancy Pelosi say? She said, pass the bill and then you'll read it to find out what's in there. I mean, that's terrific. That's scary. I've heard in the past couple months, and I'm sure you have, doctors' offices closing down, medical facilities are closing down because of these new rules and regulations that are in there. And the Democrats say, well, we'll clean it up a little bit. The only way to clean it up is to get rid of it. And really, oh, they keep saying, by the way, that this is a right-wing conspiracy. I'm a lifelong Democrat, so it's not a right-wing conspiracy. Then they say, because most of the time I'm on the radio, because TV won't do it, most of the time I've been on radio, they say, then you're a racist, Mr. Berg. I say, well, you can't see me. I happen to be white and I happen to be Jewish, but I'm also a paid-up life member of the NAACP. What's your next question? And they don't have a next question. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this because the most important document that we have is the U.S. Constitution. This document has sustained us for over 234 years. This document has been tried to be copied around the world by other nations. Most haven't succeeded with it. I'm doing this for the 308 million people in this country who deserve to know the truth. I'm doing this for our forefathers who put together the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, along with the U.S. Constitution. Fabulous documents that have caused us, we've lost over 1.6 million men and women fighting in battles to enforce this country's and enforce the Constitution, and another 1.6 million men and women who have been wounded in battle. That's over 3.2 million people have been wounded or killed defending this Constitution against a fraud in the White House. How outrageous is that? And how about the millions of other men and women who in the past have served as our veterans who came up here today and who continue to serve, even in battles? As far as I'm concerned, we should have never gone into Iraq and we should have never gone to Afghanistan. I think that's a disgrace. And Obama was going to get us out of war. He got us more embedded now into Afghanistan that I don't see how we get out of there. He's going to put a time to pull our troops out, then pull them out today. Let's not lose more men and women in these weeks while he's deciding what to do. His general asked for more troops, and it took him, what, 3 months to decide? During that time, how many men and women were killed or injured while he dilly-dallied around or played basketball with his friend? He's indecisive. But yeah, also, don't tell, great from a veteran here, don't tell the enemy to quit. Yeah, we're leaving there on such and such day. Okay, so we'll wait and then we'll destroy the country. We have to stand firm. I'm so honored to be here in Washington, D.C. with the U.S. Capitol behind me. Because in other countries, if I was speaking against the leader like this, I would be shot or I would be in prison. And thank God we have these privileges in this country. But you have to be fearful, because if they take away one right today, they're going to take away another one tomorrow. Obama and his crew is looking for a new world order. Okay? We can go into that, you know, whatever he's doing as far as I'm concerned is to the detriment of this nation. You know, they spent billions of dollars. We took over General Motors. We have no business taking over General Motors. He closed down various car agencies all across the country, demanded they be closed. You know how many people he put out of jobs rather than making jobs? We have to revitalize this country, and you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it when you have a president who goes around the world apologizing for the United States. You're not going to do it when you have a president who goes to the Saudi king and bows down to him. You're not going to do it when you have a president who bows down to the Emperor of Japan. You're not going to do it when he bows down to the leader of China. And this is what Obama has done. This is a total disgrace and embarrassment. And how anyone in this country can stand behind him after that really appalls me. How the Democrat Party, and I'm a Democrat, as far as I'm concerned, they should throw every Democrat out of office, and the Republicans can change something. But meanwhile, we should probably throw a lot of the Republicans out too. You know why? You know why? In my opinion, members of Congress, the House and the Senate, they have two things to do. You know what that is? Number one, raise as much money as they can. Two, to get reelected. They really could care less about you and I. But we have to show them that they must care. We can make a difference. My appeal here is to Republicans and Democrats and independents and Tea Party people and every citizen in this country, affiliated or not, to make sure you get out and vote these bums out. You know, we need a change, and we need pressure on Obama. Now, I could go on and on. I'm going to take a little break for my throat here, and I'm going to bring up a great speaker, a great friend of mine, who is a author, a journalist, a lecturer, and critic of U.S. foreign and domestic policy. So while I take a little break, I'm going to bring up here a great friend of mine, Webster Tarpley. Webster? Now, ladies and gentlemen, Ron McCray, I don't know where he is. He's here in Washington, and he's not that familiar with it, but I hope he shows up. Ron McCray is important because Ron McCray is one of the two ministers. His actual title is, he's the Continental Bishop who oversees the Anabaptist churches in North America, and also the presiding elder on the African churches, where we have numerous churches throughout Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Democratic Republic of the Congo, and mission works in several other African nations. Ron is important because Ron is one of the two individuals who did the translation of Sarah Obama, which is on our website. Sarah Obama is Obama's step-grandmother. And they interviewed her, and she states in Swahili that she was in the hospital August 4th, 1961 in Kenya when Obama was born in Kenya. She's vital to this entire thing. Jerry Corsi from WorldNet Daily was supposed to be here today, and he got tied up. Jerry Corsi went to Kenya to interview her. From the time he got off his plane to the time he got back on a plane, he was detained, was not allowed to interview anyone or go anywhere. And now someone just asked me today, well, why can't you go back and interview Sarah Obama again? And the reason we can't is they will not let any media near her. Now, that's his black grandmother. Notice what happened to his white grandmother, and may she rest in peace. She was real sick a few weeks before the election, remember? The whole thing, everything with Obama is strange. On a certain Tuesday, he said, my grandmother is really in bad health. She's dying. I'm going to leave immediately to go visit with her. He didn't leave immediately. He waited 2 days. And 2 days when he went, guess who he went with? Himself. He didn't take his wife. He didn't take his kids. And this woman was supposed to be the most important person in his life. And then she happened to pass away on election eve. And then did he go to her funeral right away? No. I mean, everything about Obama is strange. But Sarah Obama, she was here for the inauguration, I understand, but she was not invited to any of the official events. She was at some secondary events. and media couldn't get to her. But to me, her testimony, her statement that she was in the hospital, overrides completely that certification of live birth that Obama keeps trying to put forth, his people keep trying to put forth as his birth certificate. Now, everything about Obama, everything, is a fraud. He's a phony. Now hear that person? You know what? Let them speak, because they have, you know what? You have the right to speak, even though I disagree with you. But that's a freedom that Obama is on the verge of taking away from you, okay? That's the danger in this country. And like I say, if I was saying this against a president or leader in another country, I'd probably be shot or imprisoned or taken away. So we have that freedom in this country, and we have this freedom from the person behind them. Let us disagree with us. But we're right. In the long run, we're right. We're going to stand firm, and we're going to get Obama out of office, and we're going to get these people put in jail. That's where they belong. Now, I had filed 3 lawsuits against Obama. One of them is still pending. The one I filed, and it's very significant, all of the cases have been dismissed based upon what the first judge in the first case that I filed back August 21st, 2008, and the judge there, the federal judge in Philadelphia, dismissed the case stating that I, Phil Berg, did not have standing. Standing is the right to bring a lawsuit. But by him saying that, he said that I don't have standing, none of you have standing, no one in the entire country has standing, and perhaps in the future Congress shall give some law to decide who should have standing to bring a lawsuit against the Constitution. How absurd is that? Under the 10th Amendment, anything that didn't revert to the states reverts to who? We the people, as the Constitution starts. So that judge and other judge is wrong. As a lawyer, I have to abide by what they do. But to me, the judges in this country have no guts. They have no guts, because this issue should be tackled. Now, the one lawsuit I have, which is still pending, and there's several other lawsuits still pending by other attorneys in this country, I filed what's called a False Claims Act case, or QUITAM, Q-U-I-T-A-M. That's usually used in Medicaid or Medicare fraud cases. Significant, it's usually used, it's done like this: if you believe your neighbor or somebody is committing fraud with Medicaid or Medicare, you file a lawsuit against, and you serve the United States of America. You serve the Department of Justice and the Attorney General's office, and you did not serve Jane or John Doe, your neighbor. And the person bringing that action is called a relator. Well, I filed one against Obama. I sued, I served the Department of Justice, I served the Attorney General's office, and I did not serve Obama. Those cases are significant. First of all, it was the case that was sealed, and everyone said, why is the case sealed? All of those type cases are sealed. The government has 60 days to review the case, to make one of 3 decisions. 1, that they will pursue the case. 2, that they will let the person bringing the action, the relator, bring the case. Or 3, in very, very few cases, dismiss the case and say it should not be followed. It should not go on. In my case, what happened after 60 days, they lost the file. I had to bring it to the attention of the court that they defaulted by not responding, and after some argument back from them, they were allowed like a 90-day extension of time. Again, bending over backwards for Obama's Department of Justice, Obama's Attorney General's office. Then we had a hearing scheduled. It's very serious on this. I had never been one before. It's a sealed case. So we went to federal court here in Washington, D.C. They said, is everyone here that belongs here? And we said yes. They went and locked the door. There's little windows in the back. They actually covered the windows. The judge comes out. He says, this is a sealed case. Mr. Berg, I want you to understand one thing, that the Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia has told all of us district court justices that we have no input whatsoever in this type case. So after you make whatever presentation you're going to make, the attorney from the Attorney General's office and the attorney from the Department of Justice will make a decision on what to do with this case. I said, Your Honor, the statute provides for a hearing before a federal judge, in this case you. How can you have a statute providing for a hearing and you tell me you have no input? The judge said, well, that's what the Court of Appeals told me, so I have no input. I said, but the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is in California, they have already ruled that judges shall have input. So I gave my half-hour presentation, excuse me, and then, without saying another word, he turns to the Department of Justice attorney and the Department of Justice attorney, the U.S. Attorney General office, and says, what do you want to do? And they said, we want to dismiss this case. Judge says, case dismissed. And case unsealed. That's where I can start talking about it. I said, Your Honor, the biggest point I raised in this whole case is, how can they make that decision because of a conflict of interest? Now, ladies and gentlemen, you have to listen to this carefully, because, in my opinion, by the decision they're making in that case, and now we're ready, I'll tell you, to go to the U.S. Supreme Court, if that's allowed to stand, they should take the word conflict of interest out of the legal dictionary, and they should take it out of the Code of Federal Regulations where it sets forth. Why? Where's a conflict of interest? Well, Eric Holder happens to be the Attorney General of the United States. He was a senior member of Obama's campaign staff. He was one of 3 individuals selected to select the Vice President of the United States, who eventually selected Joe Biden. And number 3, he was nominated, confirmed, and appointed, and confirmed as Attorney General of the United States, which is the highest law enforcement officer in the country, who reports to the President. Now, if that's not a conflict of interest, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what it is. So I stated, there's a conflict of interest, appoint me, allow me to proceed with the case, or appoint a special prosecutor. They didn't agree. He went to the Court of Appeals, they affirmed him. Then I asked for the court en banc, which is the entire court. They just ruled against us on that. So we're taking the case to the Supreme Court. Thank you. Now, very significant on that type case, the issue of standing has already been resolved. That type case has already been up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they have decided that the person bringing that case, the relator, has standing. So the standing issue is gone. We're hoping that the Supreme Court has guts enough to take a legitimate case, but I have my doubts. And that's why I'm here with you pursuing these efforts, because together we can force Obama out of office. By meetings like this, getting this on the internet, getting you to send the word out across this nation, getting people who, shows that I've been on even this week, I've been on Alex Jones this week, G. Gordon Liddy this week, in the past I've been on Michael Savage and Lori Roth, and commentators who have guts enough to air this topic. And you have to demand it from the people in your various towns. There are people here from, I don't remember every place, yell it out. I know someone's here from Michigan, someone's here from Texas, North Carolina, where else? Boston. Maryland, where? Florida. Arkansas, Washington, D.C. But a young lady, where is she, that drove 20 hours straight from Texas? Who drove here? Right there. She drove 20 hours from Texas to be here today. And I commend those individuals, because it's individuals like you and I that will make this happen. Pennsylvania, of course, that's where I'm from. It's such an honor to be able to do this, and I just want to summarize everything here for you today. We're dealing really in a very scary, frightening situation, because we have an individual in that office, which I hate to even say as president, because he has no business being there. I personally believe he cannot be impeached because he's not legitimate. Okay? I think we have to force the issue. We have to force, and perhaps from Euronews, which is glad to be here for news around the world, because our national press won't cover this. So we're going to do it whatever way we can. We're going to record this. The recording of this is going to be put up on the internet. We're going to spread the word here, because this topic has to be discussed now, because we're in a constitutional crisis. Okay? Obama's going to be out of office one of these days. I don't think he could be reelected today for dog catcher, because how he's hurting this country. But behind the scenes, they pay money, they do a lot of things. Right now, we need a change in November. I'm a lifelong Democrat. As far as I'm concerned, throw them all out, because any Democrat that voted for that health care bill is outrageous. As I mentioned before, they took $500 billion from Medicare to pay for this new health care bill. They said your benefits are going to stay the same. Companies are dropping health care because the premiums are going up, the benefits are going down, the co-pays are going up. This is outrageous. 20 attorney generals are now have filed suit against the government on that suit, on that issue. Other things, so Obama, number one, has violated the Constitution by being in that office. Again, 35 years of age, 10 years living in the country, and number three, being natural born. He's not natural born. Oh, the one last thing, I mentioned that lawsuit which is pending in the D.C. I didn't mention why I'm doing it under the false claims. The reason I'm doing it under false claims is I believe Obama is not natural born. I believe he's not naturalized, and therefore he's an illegal alien. And my lawsuit is that because he was an illegal alien, his term as a United States Senator from Illinois was fraudulent. And the salary and benefits he received of about $1 million should be returned to the U.S. Treasury, and he should go to jail for that also. So it's not just the issue of presidency, but obviously, if he can't be a U.S. Senator from Illinois, he can't be president. So hopefully the Supreme Court will take that case, because it's really vital they do that. As I stated before, Obama is a fraud, a phony. This is the biggest hoax against the United States of America in 234 years. And it's time. We have to get him out of there. He's violating the Constitution by the office. The Obamacare is blatantly unconstitutional because he's forcing everyone out there, every one of you, to buy insurance, and if not, you can be penalized. This is a disgrace. He's ready to call forth with this committee for Social Security, and people want to do away with Social Security. He doesn't care about you and I. He's a very arrogant individual. He cares about whatever he wants. He doesn't listen to the pulse of this nation, because 70% of people in the country don't want Obamacare. Okay? He's dropped in the polls. He's about 36%. This is a time that we continue to put the pressure on, drop him further in the polls, change Congress, appeal Obamacare, but put the pressure on the media around the country, in your hometowns. Spread the word on the internet. If we didn't have the internet, we wouldn't be here today. But the internet does not cost you any additional. Send it to all your friends, your associates, your family members. Let's get this word out. Remember, what they put forth, the COLE, a certification of live birth, you cannot even register your child for Little League, and you can't get a passport for that. So it's really been an honor. You know what I think I'm going to do? I'll take for about 5 minutes here, if we can get one mic hooked up. Anyone have any questions? Come up to one mic here. Can we do that? Any questions? Just come up to the microphone here, and I'll try to answer them, and then we'll do a wrap-up. Anybody have any questions? Here we go. Here comes someone up here then.
First of all, I want to thank you for what you're doing for America, together with the rest of these great patriots that are present here. And
Thank you.
The questions that I have for you, I've heard about the fact that Obama is also using somebody else's social security number. Can you comment on that?
Great point. Now, the only problem with that is we've heard he's using a number from Connecticut. We've heard up to 60 different Social Security numbers. I'm not sure the whole thing on that, but it's something that should be looked into. If anyone has more than one Social Security number, it's fraud. And Obama, I believe, is fraud throughout. I mean, recently, I think they released his passport, but it was a passport that was just issued like 2 years ago. That doesn't mean anything. You know, we must see the original document. That's a great point on Social Security. It's just another factor in the life of Obama that, think about it, what do you really know? You know, but for his step-grandmother, we don't even know he was really born on August 4th, 1961. That's the only true evidence we have, other than his statement and the 2 announcements in newspapers. And I'm not too concerned about those announcements in newspapers. My children lived in a different state than I. When my granddaughter was born, I put an announcement in my local paper. That didn't mean she was born in Pennsylvania, because she wasn't. Okay, so that's the strong evidence. Another question? Right here.
If your lawsuit is successful, does that necessarily mean that the judge will eventually demand to see his birth certificate? And if so, we assume that the birth certificate will not be forthcoming, he won't be able to produce it, then what would the next step be? Would Congress then have to begin impeachment hearings, or what would result?
I think if any judge, or the justices of the Supreme Court, if any judge or justice decides to order a thing called discovery in the case, the ball game will be over. Obama will be out of office, okay? I don't know the next step. I don't know how we get there. But if the court would do it, I think Congress, all of a sudden, you'll see them like follow suit. Oh, we didn't realize this. We didn't realize he's a fraud and a phony. Nonsense. I really think members of Congress have committed, or are on the verge of committing treason for not living up to and following the U.S. Constitution. Think about it. They know he's a fraud. They haven't brought it forth. Their duty, they swore to uphold the Constitution. That's all the judges that have heard this case. That's the Congress, who at the joint session of Congress. They know it's, you know what, if they would hold one, in my opinion, one congressional hearing on Obama, he'd be out of office. Just tell them, we want you to bring in here, subpoena all your records. Show us your natural born. And would they do it? They won't do it. Because they know. Did I mention Congressman Posey? I don't think I did, but perhaps not. Congressman Posey, a Republican from Florida, introduced legislation stating that as of 2012, anyone running for president must show that they're constitutionally qualified to run for president. He's a Republican. He got 7 or 8 Republican members to join on real quick, but not one Democrat. And you know why? Because they know he's a fraud. They know he's a phony. If not, that legislation should just zip through Congress. It didn't. They know. They know he's a fraud. They know he's a phony. I think members of Congress have committed or verge of committing treason. Any other questions?
Hello, Phil and the American Patriots. First of all, I wanted to know, are you familiar with the conference that just took place on October 21st called Marxism in America, and subtitled DC Conference on Obama's Marxist Roots? And what I wanted to mention concerning this is WorldNet Daily actually just did a story as of last night, still a headline story, but Larry Grathwohl, who actually was, okay, one second. Okay, he went underground, okay, to find out what's happening with the weather underground, but the evidence that he, as well as the other speakers, is showing is that there are direct links with the weather underground, the Marxists, the communists, Frank Marshall Davis, and direct links to Obama. And so, have you heard about this?
No, I haven't, but everyone please, I'm going to cut you because I want to stay focused here. Read the WorldNet Daily article, and thank you for giving us advice on that.
Okay, no, but this is very pertinent. That's why I wanted to ask you, Phil. This particular conference is exposing Obama's direct ties, okay, to Marxist communists, and what happened, the terrorism that happened 40 years.
Okay, thank you. And also a plug, read Webster Tarpley's what? Which book? Here, let him tell you.
The answer to all of this was available more than 2 years ago, in the first week of August 2008, in my biography, Barack H. Obama, the Unauthorized Biography. In short, concerning Obama's religion, he is a follower of Nietzsche and Frantz Fanon. This points away from any recognized religion and in the direction of atheism or something else, which of course is anybody's right. But he's certainly not what he pretends to be if he's a Nietzschean. Concerning the Weather Underground, his career was launched by 2 weathermen, ex-terrorists, veteran terrorists, Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dohrn. Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dohrn are the 2 people who destroyed the peace movement in the 1960s with their terrorist bombing. They were operatives, they were agents of the foundations and the intelligence community. They were wreckers deployed within. So we had a peace movement in the 1960s destroyed by Ayers and Dohrn, We had a peace movement until 3 years ago, destroyed by Obama. So I urge people, put aside the right-wing ideological lens. The right-wing ideological lens gets you nowhere. Look at what he actually does. And read Barack H. Obama, the unauthorized biography, and Obama, the postmodern coup, the making of a Manchurian candidate. We now have 3 or 4 books with Manchurian. I should have copyrighted it in detail.
Thank you.
And Mr. Berg, could I just mention the website called usasurvival.org for the details. Thank you so much.
Very good. And before the next question, someone just brought to my attention, remember about this certification of live birth, what they said it was original? Factcheck.org is the one that said it was valid. Well, factcheck.org was created by the Annenberg Foundation of Chicago, of which Barack Obama sat on the board of and gave millions of dollars to. So that was like a little fraudulent. And firm, unite, get the message out there, spread the word throughout this country, keep the pressure on, get our local newspapers to cover this, let's get our local TV stations to cover this. And you know, we the people, as the Constitution starts, we can have a peaceful revolution in this country, because if not, there's people talking of other kinds of revolution in this country, and we don't need that. We need a united, we the people, together, peaceful revolution to straighten this country out. And is do like this, do it in your hometowns. Do you know if like 5 individuals were to get together, let me think, Obama, where is your birth certificate? 6 words, okay? Think about it. If you make up signs with 6 words, Obama, where is your birth certificate? And that's a little different than the signs that are around the country. Some of the signs around the country say, where's your birth certificate? I think it doesn't go far enough, because I think people see as it goes into immigration. But if 6 people would stand together with those signs at a busy intersection at rush hour, you can come between, depending how busy it is, you can affect between 5,000 and 20,000 people in 1 hour. And that's what we should do. Maybe we'll put that on our website. We should do that around the country. Start spreading the word. Get on that internet. It doesn't cost you any more. Send the message out. A lot of the filming that was done here today will be on the internet. It's going to be up there. And keep spreading the word that a certification of live birth is not a birth certificate. If the baby's length, the baby's weight, the hospital name, the doctor's name, the doctor's signature are not on that document, and it's not valid evidence of birth for a birth certificate. It can't get you your child into Little League, and also can't get you a passport. Any other questions? Because we're wrapping soon. Yes, sir.
Well, I just had a quick question. I had a brief conversation with a young man who's what is exactly the definition of standing? He was of the opinion that standing means that the evidence that you had was not sufficient. It's my understanding that when the judge rules that you do not have standing, he simply says, it's none of your business, so get out.
Well, it's not, standing is the right, that you have the right to bring that lawsuit. That you are affected. It also says you have injury. But standing is the right to bring an action. In other words, like, I can't sue your next door neighbor for damage to your house because I have no standing. I don't live next to you. You can sue your next door neighbor.
So it really has nothing to do with the
evidence. It has nothing to do with evidence. You don't even get to the evidence. That person who told you that is wrong on that. Standing is the right you have to bring an action.
And the reason the judge ruled that is because the lawyers for Obama asked him to. Is that?
Well, they ruled that Berg doesn't have standing to bring this, and these other attorneys across the country, the other individuals, don't have the right to bring an action against the Constitution. And they basically followed Judge Surik, the judge in Philadelphia, who said that I don't have the right, none of you have the right, no one in the country has the right to sue over the Constitution.
But he made that ruling because...
Well, the other side asked for that, and he caved into that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that's 100% wrong. Anything else? There we go, right here. Wait.
We got a DVD out because of all the length of it. So we'll get it out. We'll go over your internet website. We'll have a DVD of this.
Okay. I'll tell that in a minute. Yes, sir.
Thank you for your work. My question is, since it's my understanding that the 20th Amendment, Section 3, specifically requires that qualification had been completed before the time fixed for the beginning of the presidency, that because of the fact that this would alleviate all the discussions, they would just focus on whether the qualification had been completed. Do you think that would be more worthwhile if generally, I know there are many approaches and facets to all this, but do you think generally if there were more focus on that part of the Constitution, that would remove all the debate, or at least most of it? The debate would be secondary to support, but it would remove, for security reasons, the debates, and it would say, just ask a simple question: did the person finish qualifying before the time fixed? Do you think that would be more effective?
Well, I think it's a good point, but what would happen, I think, all the judges in this country would rule how they've ruled, that you don't have standing to bring that type of action. They're saying that Congress in the future shall decide who has standing. It's absurd. I don't buy the decision, but none of the appellate courts have agreed with our position on this, and it's really wrong. So, a good point, but I don't think it would have any different bearing. Before any other questions, John, my great photographer, and there's others here, mentioned that we're going to do a DVD because this was long today, and it'll be available on our website of the proceedings here today. So keep watching our website, obamacrimes.com. Yes, sir.
One last question, Councilor Berg. In the event over the next month to 90 days that this last case that's still pending and still active in the courts does not go our way, or again gets turned down, what can we do? Because we're only 90 days, 60 days away from the 212 elections, where every Secretary of State of all 50 states, have to register with the Electoral College. Should we begin to look over the horizon on what movements we should do on each of our own states?
I guess we can look into that. We'll try to look into that. I'm hopeful, that we can accomplish that before. But that's a good point, to put the Secretary of States on notice that we're going to watch what they're doing here. It's an avenue to take, you're right, before it occurs, because afterwards the Secretary of State say it's too late. So that is a good approach. We'll check into that. It's a good idea. Yes, young lady.
Hi, I'd like to know if a Republican would have standing, like a congressman or senator, if they would have standing to bring a court case.
Not according to the judge, but a congressman or no. The judge said no one has standing. He said perhaps in the future Congress will decide. Completely wrong. But if a congressman or a senator had guts, they could hold a congressional hearing. So right now, though, no Democrat will do anything. They're in control. The party in power has control. So if the Republicans take control in November, they will be able to hold hearings. They could do something about it. And then I think, as a Democrat here, it's time to throw them all out. It's time to throw everybody out, but I would throw the Democrats out because they sure aren't looking out for our welfare. Yes, sir.
Yes, I just can't understand how any judge could rule that any American does not have standing. We are all stuck with this deficit. We are all stuck with these attacks on our constitutional rights. I mean, every single American is affected by this, and every single American should have standing, and I think the judge should be impeached just for that ruling.
Well, the only problem is who's going to impeach him. Judges, I think, I don't think you can impeach them. There's different procedures against judges. The national media in our country and the judges in our country have no guts. This topic should be dealt with. Some judge, someplace should deal with it. Congress should deal with it. Some congressman, some Democrat or Republican or independent member of the House or Senate should deal with this. And if not, we're going to have to deal with this as we the people keep watching Obama crimes. We came up with this name back in 2008 when we didn't know the extent of the crimes. But they're massive because he has violated the law, and it's up to us. Any more? One last question? What do we got here? One last question, and then we're going to wrap.
Okay, my question is in reference to the actual machinery behind Obama. From my point of view, I know that Obama could have never gotten to the place where he is, save that it would have been produced by the Bilderberg Group and the CFR, which is the shadow government of America. So is there any way that we can just, the snake has to be killed by the head?
Well,
how can we approach this?
We have to just continue the way we are. With that one case, we're going to take the U.S. Supreme Court. Other than that, we need the rank and file. We need all of you across this country. As the Constitution starts, we the people, we must continue our efforts, pursue our efforts, and demand that the Constitution be followed. And that's why I'm here today. That's why you're here today. Is Ron McRae here? One last thing. Is Ron here? I don't see him. He was here in Washington. He didn't show up. I thank you all. Give a round of applause for our other speakers, and thank you for being here today. And I thank you. I'm going to applaud each of you for being here today and continuing this effort, because together, we the people can bring justice to this country, and we can save our country, because we need to save our country. Thank you very much.